Matt here, Young Yin Tai Chi USA.com. And while I was in Thailand, I had a few notebooks of scattered notes that I put into a new notebook here. And one of the topics was Qigong Deviations. This is where you get sick from doing Qigong improperly. And while I was out there, I noticed one pretty popular teacher made a YouTube announcement that he was going to be doing a 14-hour series on Qigong Deviations. I made a comment that I teach my Qigong and Tai Chi students and acupuncture students Qigong Deviations in about 30 minutes. And whoa, did that really upset him. He got very emotional and did a personal attack on me. And I thought it was kind of funny since this person says, acts like he has a high attainment in Qigong and enlightenment, and it was a very emotional and revealing his true level of attainment. So a good teacher is going to be kind of to the point and not ramble on such a simple topic. The average attention span of people is not very long, so you want to keep people engaged and get the message across and not bore the mind. Otherwise, the information is not going to get picked up. So, without further ado, let's go over Qigong sickness and best practices. Okay. So, the first and foremost, everyone's always heard is you got to have a skilled teacher who's been through all the different levels. That's going to be super important. And if you're going at Qigong and Neigong with the wrong intentions, it can be very dangerous. It's going to create a balance of yin and yang. And when we talk about yin and yang here, we're talking about yang as in body heat and yin as in body fluids. Because they're always challenging each other. If body heat increases, it's going to decrease body fluids. If body fluids increase, it can decrease the body heat. So we want to maintain that balance. Okay? So Qigong can be overstimulating to the body heat, and your lifestyle can create too many fluids, and so you want to find that balance. And you want to be gentle. I've said it a million times, gentle, non-force, or when you do Qigong, it should be non-force and natural. Okay? We're not trying to force anything to happen. That's just going to cause more imbalance. And you want to find peace and stillness from your practice. You want to enjoy your practice. It should be something that is enjoyable and makes you feel good. Another aspect, the second aspect, is you need to use feeling and listen to your body, to what it's saying. And you have to do it in a casual manner. You want to pay attention. You want to feel and listen to your breathing. Feel and listen to what your body is telling you throughout the practice, because it is a process and you'll need to understand the different stages. Another thing is, let's talk about a couple of the illnesses that can occur from doing Qigong. One, blocked Qi. This is you have enough Qi, but the roads or the channels can't hold the Qi, so it becomes like a big traffic jam in your body. It's called stagnation. It gets blocked. The Qi is there, it just gets blocked. Second is the liver yang rising. The liver in Oriental medicine, it spreads the Qi out in all directions. But if you force your Qi, you can make it go rise, and it's going to cause headaches and restlessness and irritability, especially up in the head, because the yang is rising upwards. Okay. Another is kidney and adrenal burnout from excess heat, or excess, you're trying to force it and try it, and you're making a demand on the livers and the kidney of the body. So the liver and the kidneys, they have a certain amount of Qi, and you're actually trying to demand them to make more, and then that's going to create an imbalance. And another thing is the person who's oversexed and has sexual perversions. This is a super important aspect we need to keep in mind, because you have to have a balanced sexual lifestyle. A lot of schools say, if you have sex, you have to wait 24 to 72 hours before starting your Qigong again. Because, especially for a man, because the man will lose the Yang Qi every time he has sex. And then you have to recultivate it. You have to eat the right things, maybe take some herbal supplemental formulas, and not have too much sex, because that will drain the Yang Qi, and we want to circulate and cultivate the Jing Qi. Jing as an essence, the sexual essence. Sperm in man, egg in woman, and the other fluids. And then another thing is just what we call celestial eye possession, is where there's like the mental illness aspect and the spiritual possession aspect. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, and how to remedy those things. Another aspect, the fourth aspect we should talk about, is not to pursue visions. This is an art that we want to use the feeling. We want to use our mind, our yi, our intelligence, our focus, our concentration to lead the qi. But we don't want to be overly focused or overly concentrated, okay? We need to use the stillness. We need to lift up the yin via the microcosmic orbit or the water wheel. And again, this is something we don't want to force. Using stillness is going to be essential to the practice. Another aspect is not to get nervous with calming the mind. I have a lot of patients that have anxiety and are very anxious. And with the type of news media that's out there, they're very nervous about, COVID-19 or the political situation, or, the way the environment is, extreme weather storms and extreme weather, extreme heat or forest fires, all these things we're bombarded that is stimulating us and making us anxious. And so don't feel discouraged when you're being bombarded by the news media and you're feeling anxious and your mind's not calming itself. Just simply do something else until you can get to a space where you can go back to practice and find that silence and stillness within. A note I have on that is that's related to the yi, or the spleen, in Oriental medicine. Again, don't force stopping thoughts. Just take a break and then return to practice. Forcing can burn out the liver and kidneys, and the monkey mind can be remedied with relaxation practice and learning to let go. Again, you have to learn to let go. You can't just tell yourself to let go. You have to learn how to relax and let go physically, mentally, and spiritually. Sixth aspect is we live in a world where the fire goes up into the head and the cold goes down. We're separating the yin and yang. And we need to, what we call, reverse the world. We need to put the fire under the water, so the water goes down and the fire goes up, and they mix like a yin and yang. Okay? And so the reversing the world is a very important Taoist aspect that we need to do and cultivate. So there's practices for that. The microcosmic orbit is a good example. Breathing at the dantian, sinking the qi, grasping the qi at the dantian, putting the center of gravity there, putting all the right ingredients at the lower dantian, and being very clear of where the dantian is within the body. So that's a very important aspect. Think of a cauldron. There's a cauldron in the belly area with the fire under, and the cauldron's full of water, and we're going to create steam. Lifting up the yin at the perineum and bringing down the yang is going to be the root of that practice. Avoid getting lightheaded and dizzy. If that occurs, you're going to have to practice massaging the GB20 point in the back of the head. You can massage it, you can tap it. There's going to be a couple other techniques we'll talk about later on when we get a little bit deeper into the deviations. One of my teachers thinks, forgetfulness and Alzheimer's, senility, those kind of things may be remedied by the microcosmic orbit. However, it's difficult and not easy to do the microcosmic orbit. It requires diligence, at least starting off 30 minutes twice a day for about 3 months, typically 100 days. You want to do it twice a day to try to smooth out the qi in what they call the du mai and the ren mai. The du mai comes up the back and the ren mai comes down the front. Now for women, it's a little bit different. They like to do the path that's healthier for them to go up the ren and down the back. We might talk about that a little bit later. So another aspect is again, we talked about the news and the media, how life gives you ebbs and flows. So you want to live with change and live to the rhythm and the pulses of life. Energy, qi, flow, weather, events in life, you're going to have ups and downs, and you have to kind of roll with the punches and just go with the flow. Try not to resist and go the opposite direction. That's just going to create more stress in your life. So make realistic goals and avoid having a compulsive mental attitude and lifestyle. Stop being selfish and let go. Be flexible. Nourish your kidneys. It's important what you do during those life transitions, okay? Blockages will release and things will change and shift. So be like water is the best philosophy. So there is a progress. Remember, I talked about a process, and that's returning to the Tao. We want to go from form to formless. We work with shapes, we work with concepts, we work with ideas, like postures and stances when we're doing our Qigong. These come from the 10,000 things, but we want to go down to zero, to nothingness, okay? So that's going to create, we have to work with Jing, our essence, the biochemicals, the food, the water, the metabolism, those things in life. And then that's going to cultivate our qi, our internal vibration, our biophysical, the true breath, and the channel circulation and intent that we will use. This will cultivate the shin, the spirit, the external expression that comes out through our eyes, through our face, the grace of our movement, how we move. Okay, and then that will lead to emptiness, which will create more qi. That's where we get to that wu-wei aspect of no intent, where we're doing without doing. We return to the origin from form to formless, and the elements return to their source. Another aspect is to live and work with the cycle of day and night. The sun is yang. We want to live under the sun. And we want to, in our daily life, in the sun, in the world of our productivity, we want to work with our to-do list. We need to get things done. We need to do our daily diligence, our daily workout of Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation. And then we have our daily jobs. We have to prepare to the mind that what will happen in the daytime. And this should all start in the early morning, where you plan out your day. And then in the night, the yin part, we work with change and other variables, things we cannot control. Think of like the weather, people, certain situations, the environment. Those are the yin things in our life. So again, we want to be flexible, like water. The moon is always changing. Look how it goes through cycles and phases. And for women need to be in harmony with the moon and their cycle. So, for women who are not on birth control, typically at the new moon is when you should be having your menstruation, and at the full moon is where you should be having your ovulation. So keep that in mind. And don't get irritated by the variables in life, the things you cannot change. Just flow with the ebbs and flows of life. And that'll be a big factor in your success in acupuncture. So that's it for some basic ideas. Now let's go into the heart of the matter of prepping for Qigong. So when we talk about Qigong, we have to understand the root of Qigong, where it comes from. So some of the ancient forms are like Dao Yin and Du Na. So Dao Yin will be more like stretching and purging the channels, while the Du Na is exhaling out the stale and inhaling the fresh air. Okay, those are two important aspects, because Qigong is a term that came out through the 1950s, and there was like a revitalization of Qigong with the Chinese Communist Party, or the ancient practices of like Du Na, Dao Yin, and Neigong, and other things. You want to, be sure if you're doing, Tai Chi, Qigong, Neigong, all these things, that you have to separate yourself from the world a little bit, because you're going to have to devote 2 to 4 hours a day to really do it. I like to use the times of Zi Wu Mao Yu, which is sunrise, sunset, midday, and midnight. So those are 4 aspects. They're 2-hour windows, and if I can get 30 minutes within those times, they're not the best times, but they're preferred times. That'll give me at least 2 hours to work within the day. And just value it. You don't have to make it a top priority. You don't have to stress like, oh, I missed my time zone. You can practice anytime. But you shouldn't be obsessive or compulsive about how you're going to be doing your practice. Just go with the flow. If you get in a situation at work where you just have to skip practice, just do more later. And also pay attention to your diet, what you're eating. Try to eat at the same time every day, and try to eat 3 meals a day. Try not to skip meals. Try to be aware of the food that you're eating. What category is it in? Is it a cool food, cold food, warm food, hot or spicy fire food? You want to keep a balance. I tell my patients to try to stick to the cooling and warming. That's more of a middle path, middle road. If you're eating in the cold and the hot categories, your scale's teetering too much. But if you're towards the middle, it's not going to move so much. Okay. The list of those foods are on my website. And just have the right motive, because when you're working with the Neidan, you're working with Qigong, you're working with Yigong, you're working with the Neigong and Shengong. We're working with things with like stillness and song and relaxation, to realize the 3 bodies. We're letting go of the self. We're opening up the 8 gates, the 8 main channels. And we're working with the small water wheel, the microcosmic orbit that circulates. Okay? These are very Taoist ideas. So we're releasing the physical body with song and letting go. We're working with flexibility in the legs, the body, and the arms. We're working with our energy body. It's not a real body, but we describe it with channels, like the 8 extraordinary, the Chong, that central channel that goes through the body, and all the channels of the 8 primary meridians. And we're opening up the body, the joint spaces, the Huang, the Qi body, the different membranes in the body. We're opening them and stretching them to allow the Qi to flow more. And we're working with various postures in our Tai Chi postures or standing postures, our moving meditations. So we're opening up the body with rounding, and we're clearing the mind. Okay, so on Qigong Deviations, the first 3 most important things, again, 1, don't force Qigong. You cannot force Qigong derogation. This is when the patient's constitution or their state of illness does not allow for the practice of internal qi or nei qi. This can create chronic and acute states in the body. So if you're doing it over a long time, 6 months or more, improperly, this becomes chronic. If you're doing your Qigong and the first few minutes or 10, 15 minutes, something is not feeling right, that's acute situation. So we want to try to avoid those. The next is improper Qigong Deviation. This is when you don't have guidance from a good teacher, where you fail to do things correctly, or you're rushing and doing things very hastily. The body, breath, and mind are not properly regulated. And then this is going to cause some qi sickness. And the last is just being weak-minded in general. Some people go into Qigong being overly suspicious about it, or they're not trusting the process, or having faith. But faith doesn't have to be blind, like just going in. It's healthy to have a skeptical mind and to question things, and I always encourage people to do that. But if you go at it with the wrong view or the wrong attitude, then that's not going to help your Qigong practice at all. So the main syndromes that happen, the main 5 ones we're going to talk about. The first is when you have the reverse of flow of qi. This is going to cause dizziness, chest oppression, fright, fear, shortness of breath. You might get shaking in the limbs. And so the treatment for the reverse flow, for example, the best example of the reverse flow of qi is something called the stomach qi rebellion. So the natural flow of the stomach channel is down. So when you eat the food, it goes down the esophagus to the stomach and then down and through the digestion. But if you're feeling nauseous, that means the qi is rising up. And if you get too nauseous, you can vomit and the qi comes out. And your food comes out in the form of vomit. So that's an example. And it can happen to any of the channels, spleen, kidney, whatever. It just goes the opposite direction of that channel. And so the treatment for that is we do something called opening the 8 gates, and we'll do that with the acupuncture needle. And you can also do it with massage. So what you want to do is conduct the qi back to the dantian, because it's scattered and going off in other directions. So the points that will be useful for the acupuncture student is, if you happen to have a qigong patient that's has some kind of qi sickness, is to use D20, gallbladder 4, gallbladder 8, gallbladder 5, the Taiyang points, gallbladder 20, and do 4, which is the Mingmen. You can massage the back and the head. You can massage them using your Tuina techniques. So massage the head, the back, the chest, and the 3 channels in the arm and legs. We have the 3 channels, the yin channels and the 3 yang channels, and same with the leg. You want to massage all those, and then try to conduct the qi back to the dantian. The second is the stagnation of qi and blood. We talked about a little bit of stagnation before. You have the qi, but the roads aren't good. You don't have a highway for the qi because you haven't developed your channels well enough. You have an old dirt road and with a big traffic jam. So Qigong over time is like smoothing out that dirt road, paving it, widening it, maybe making it 1 lane each, and then widening it to 2 lane on each side. So that's what the channels are like. So, and that's what Qigong and Tai Chi and all of these arts do, is it makes those roads, those channels work properly. Sometimes your channels have potholes that need to be filled in. Sometimes the roads get icy. Sometimes the roads get floody. So things like that. You have car breakdowns and accidents. So Qigong can kind of be like a traffic cop trying to get qi flowing. So when that occurs, stagnation of qi and blood, there can be local pain, heaviness, soreness, or distension. Distension, think of distension as that beer belly guy, his guts sticking out. He doesn't have that firmness, okay? Like the organs lose their being held in the proper place. For example, a hemorrhoid, a person with an external hemorrhoid, the anus droops, or a woman with the they lose their vaginal firmness. Okay, it happens with the organs too. They kind of droop and lose place. So, what you can do is the treatment for that is for the acupuncturist. They would use the do 20 point, do 16 at the back of the neck, the Tin Min. Yeah, you learn that when you work with children a lot. That's the area from the yin tong to do 24, massaging this a lot, just like that. And you want to practice push and rub the different points or areas of the body that are affected. So say like you're having some local pain in the elbow, so you might want to massage and press and rub points that are in that area, or in the back, or wherever you're having that painful area. The third is the leakage or loss of qi. We did talk about this a little bit earlier. That's the person who's a little bit oversexed and they have low amount of qi. They might have like the wet dreams or the seminal emissions, which is talked about a lot in Oriental medicine, because again, you need to have that jing, that essence, to mix with the qi. Okay, so we say there's a loss of jing, or the qi leaks out of the anus. That's why sometimes in those practices they say you have to tuck the tailbone under. They call this the deer tail. The deer tail is kind of tucked under to allow the qi to go from the huiyin up to the du 1 point and up the spine. So that's why they talk about a lot of that posture, kind of like making the tailbone straight, pointed kind of towards the ground. Okay. So this causes weak limbs, a dull complexion. The person might be nervous, have mental disturbances. They're very distractive. They have a failing memory. They have night sweats, lassitude, and are very sluggish. So the treatment for that is you can practice emitting the qi to the Ming Men. You can massage the Ren 12 and Ren 17, Ren 6, Ren 4, urinary bladder 23, and massaging the Du channel and the urinary bladder channel. You can choose points on the torso and the dantian, and teach them how to draw in the anus, like we talked about, that posture. Again, you don't want to squeeze too hard, and you don't want to be totally relaxed. It's just like a slight, gentle pull. Okay, the fourth one is the patient with the Qigong deviation. That's called infatuation. These are the people looking for psychic powers, the Siddhis. The first rule of the Siddhis is don't talk about Siddhis. Siddhis are not something you want to attain. You might have things happen where you have premonitions and something happens, or you see the future, or you see a past life. Move on from that. That's not an attainment it's not the goal of practice. There's people that talk about Siddhis and, oh, my teacher has the Siddhis, or a teacher's like, oh, I have the Siddhis, I'm a high level teacher. If someone's like that, I wouldn't follow them. My teachers don't talk about that. And so there's people that they're looking for those psychic powers. They have those mental derangements. They're very eccentric. They're looking for trance-like states. Sometimes they get into that spiritual possession or psychosis. They might have hallucinations that are visual or auditory. And this can lead to like suicidal delusions or delusions of grandeur. They think like they're, a god, or they think like they're God's gift to the Tai Chi person. There's a lot of it on there. I've called it out a lot. The woo-woo people they're doing this fancy stuff. Oh, here's my arm in Pong. This is how I fight. And then my student gets to bounce back off my arm. That is a delusion of grandeur. That's not how you're going to fight. What if someone's going to kick you or punch you? Are you going to just hold your arm out in Pong and think that's going to be the means to an end? There's a whole lot of this infatuation going on in the Tai Chi and Qigong world right now, or people, trying to use their powers on other people. And it's not honest and it's not truthful. I've called it out, and I've been called out saying, oh, just let people do what they want to do. Let people be their own, or don't focus on what other people are doing. That's immature. No, it's not. It's sickness. It's sick that you guys are doing that. So boys and girls, for infatuation, what you want to do is work with opening up the 8 gates. When I talk about the 8 gates, I'm talking about the Du Mai, the Ren Mai, the Chong Mai, the Dai Mai, the Yin Wei and Yang Wei channels, the Yin Wei and Yang Wei heel channels. Okay, there's 8 of them. So you would need to impress those. Again, massaging the back and the forelimbs, trying to get the qi to come back to the dantian. The acupuncturists can use points like do 20, do 14, stomach 6, urinary bladder 40, do 10, urinary bladder 13, large intestine 11, urinary bladder 57, large intestine 4, which is really good for getting the qi going properly in the right direction for all the channels, SI 19, and do 26 here. The last one we're going to talk about is the disorderly flow of pathogenic qi. And this is going to be the last part to sum up everything. This is when you do have vital qi, but you also have pathogenic qi that's inside your body. This could be like you might have some excess heat or some excess damp or some wind in the body. Wind is described as like a pain that moves around the body. You can have a cold and that gets stuck in the body, things like this. And it's affected by the weather, and sometimes those energies get stuck in your body. Okay? And so there could be some local pain, there can be some soreness, there can be distension in the body and feelings of cold or hot in the body. Also, pathogenic qi can be things like the warm diseases. So the warm diseases are like viruses or bacteria that are in your body, like COVID. Think of COVID-19. Say like you had COVID and you feel good after a couple weeks, but something's still lingering in your body, so you're not fully recovered. So it might be trapped and stuck in a far region of the body, and you want to get that out. So one of the main things to do is practice pinching the Jingshu points. These are the well points of the fingers and toes. They're all in the ends of the fingers and toes, so you can practice massaging those. Okay. Also, you can press and rub the local areas that are hurting. And it's very important for the person to practice sitting meditation strictly on just the dantian, inhaling, exhaling calmly, and you want to do up to like 49 breaths. Just really, practice your standing qigong or practicing your sitting with the legs in lotus or half lotus or sitting at the edge of a chair, but really focus on developing that dantian and creating that warmth state in the dantian, because that can push out that cold pathogen and create that balance of if there's excess heat. Okay, so I'm not timing this, but that's all my notes that I put together while I was on vacation from various notebooks. I feel like we can get this done in way less than 14 hours. And I hope you enjoy this video and you get a lot out of it. Namaste and blessings to you, and have a great day and a healthy and strong practice. Have a great day.